1.11. How do I make sure that our performance appraisal system is legally defensible?
No appraisal system is immune to legal challenge. Nonetheless, the risk of legal difficulties can be minimized if 7 basic good management practices are followed. 1. Base the performance appraisal on an analysis of the job. 2. Define your performance dimensions in behavioral terms and support assessments with observable, objective evidence. 3. Keep things simple. 4. Monitor and audit for discrimination. 5. Train raters to assess performance accurately and to conduct effective appraisal discussions. 6. Provide for upper management review before the appraisal is reviewed with the individual. 7. Provide some appeal mechanism. Tell me more. Base the performance appraisal on an analysis of the job. Courts are skeptical of subjective, trait-based rating systems for 2 reasons. They leave an enormous amount of room for the biases of raters to influence the outcomes, and they are not directly related to specific job responsibilities. Organizations, however, are not required to conduct exhaustive analyses of each job in the company as a condition of doing performance appraisal. A job analysis can be built directly into the appraisal process itself. When an individual and manager discuss the important goals and objectives that the individual will address during the course of the year and against which his performance will be appraised, that's a job analysis. If a manager evaluates the specific behaviors and expected conduct and demeanor required to perform according to the company's expectations, and then discusses these expectations and their importance with each subordinate, that's a job analysis. When a supervisor and subordinate together determine what results the subordinate should concentrate on producing over the upcoming year, and they also discuss how the subordinate will go about generating those results, the behaviors and competencies that must be demonstrated, a legitimate job analysis has been conducted. Define your performance dimensions in behavioral terms and support assessments with observable, objective evidence. Not every job is amenable to results-based, quantitative measurement. For many jobs, success depends on such attributes as cooperation, dependability, customer relations, attitude, and other even more abstract attributes. Are these attributes important? Of course, one would argue that they are not critically important. Who would want an employee who is uncooperative, undependable, hostile with customers, and surly toward everyone else? Can they be measured and described? Of course they can. The challenge comes in finding a way to measure and evaluate these critical but intangible attributes. Completely quantifiable measures of performance do not always exist. If they did, everyone would use them. In fact, if there were complete numerical measures for every aspect of every job, performance appraisal systems themselves would probably not be necessary. The data would speak for themselves. But with most jobs, there are few absolutely direct and impartial measures of an individual's performance, particularly when successful performance is less dependent on performing countable acts than it is on such vital but elusive responsibilities as the ability to recognize and take advantage of opportunities, the ability to build a committed work team, or the ability to recognize obstacles before they become serious interferences. The answer is to describe the performance in behavioral terms. Write a description of what a master performer in each of these areas would be likely to do. Provide this description to the appraiser and ask the appraiser to assess how often the individual performed in the way described. By changing the rating scale to eliminate the requirement that raters evaluate the goodness or badness of performance, for example, unsatisfactory/fair/competent/superior, and replacing it with a scale that reflects how often the individual performs as a true master might, for example, rarely/sometimes/frequently/always, The organization reduces the possibility of legal challenge and increase the ability of the rater to conduct a more meaningful discussion. Keep things simple. Complex forms that attempt to provide a total and complete evaluation of every aspect of the individual's performance only frustrate managers and allow their biases to overcome their objectivity. The ideal performance appraisal form, discussed in detail in Chapter 6, asks the appraiser to evaluate the individual in 5 areas. 1. Organizational core competencies. These are the skills, attributes, traits, or behaviors that are expected of everyone in the organization, regardless of job or organizational level. Ethics and integrity and customer focus might be core competencies that everyone in the company will be expected to demonstrate. 2. Job family competencies. These are the competencies that apply to major job families. Job family is a convenient way to think about groupings of individual jobs that share characteristics. Some typical job families are managerial, supervisor, sales, professional, technical, and operations. Planning and organizing and conceptual thinking might be competencies assessed of everyone whose job is in the professional, technical job family, whereas safety may only show up on the form used for employees whose job falls into the operations job family.